some of them don't do that very well. But the good mothers know how to call their chicks and have them immediately come from all four directions and scoot under their wings. Now, our laying hens weren't very good at this. So we heard from my father-in-law, who had a real farm in Georgia, in the mountains of northern Georgia. Get some banties, some bantam hens, and they will do the mothering in a much better way. So we did. We got our first little flock of bantam chickens. And the moms were about yay big, which is a little bit bigger than a softball. But when something flew over, like a hawk, or they sensed some danger in the woods, they would fluff up to be 3 times that size. And their wings would do this little flutter thing, calling those chicks to come get under me right now. And they did. The chicks came running and hid under Mom until Mom gave the cluck that all was well, and the hawk or the fox had scurried away, and they were safe. So we have this beautiful image this morning of Jesus as our broody hen. This image is very motherly, and it echoes what some of the theology was of the Jews in the temple. If you were inside the temple in Jerusalem, they referred to the presence of the holy around the tabernacle as having wings. And several of the Psalms refer to, put your wings over me, I find shelter under your wings. It was those wings in the temple that the Psalms refer to. Jesus is playing with a lot of word language here, or word similes, metaphors, and tricks. So there's different ways of looking at this. Jesus is, in this reading, on his way to Jerusalem. It takes him, in Luke, 9 chapters to get to Jerusalem. So there's a large portion of this gospel where Jesus is on the way. And this is very important language for the early Christians because they were known as the way. They were called the way. So Jesus, referring here in the middle of this reading to today, tomorrow, and the next day, I must be on my way. And then he says it again. Today, tomorrow, and on the third day. What happens on the third day? There's resurrection. So we know that is resurrection. And he says, I finish my work. So he's talking about today, tomorrow, and the next day, today, tomorrow, and the third day as the present and as the eternity. That eternity involves us in doing the way of Jesus Christ forever and ever. That we are part of that eternity. But on the third day is the day of the resurrection, which this is the day of the resurrection. Every time Christians come together on Sunday, it is the day we remember the third day. So this was kind of code for the Christian journey. Also, Jesus wants to remind all of us that he was in a big hurry. He wanted to get to Jerusalem with the most ferocious passion that he was capable of in order to complete the work he had been sent for. What takes him so long? His compassion. He keeps stopping to cure people. He keeps stopping to teach people. He keeps stopping in order to include everyone. He goes to all lengths to go out and search for his people, teach them, include them, cure them, send the demons running, and deliver them safely to home. So we are to get from that we're supposed to be busy. We tend to be very passive. So let's look at this metaphor of Jesus, our broody hen, and see what it is he's asking us to do. Jesus says, with a little bit of anger, that not all are willing. Not all are willing to come to Jerusalem. Not all are willing to come to God. They go to Jerusalem and they get distracted by lots of things going on, some of which are not very healthy. We, on our way, also get distracted, and we tend to be very not single-minded. We're scattered all over the place. We also tend to be very passive. Think again of that mother hen calling her chicks, and the chicks drop everything and instantly scoot toward that broody hen. And then they do this interesting thing. In order to get under the wings, they have to bow their heads very humbly and duck under mother's feathers. So there's two things required of us for this action. One, we have to think a little less of ourselves in order to drop whatever it is we think is so darned important. Drop it and go running every time Jesus, our mother hen, calls us. And then we have to bow before we go under his wings. Humility is not our strong suit as a human race. Dropping our agenda, not our strong suit either. And these are the very things we're asked to think about in Lent. What is it I think is so important that I don't want to drop in order to go running when Jesus calls me? We tend to say Jesus doesn't show up because I'm waiting for him to come with lightning and thunder and some banners to give me and balloons and whistles. And that's just not what Jesus does. He gets our attention when we shut up the voice in our head that's telling us to constantly stay busy. We've got to find some space in there, some quiet, to listen for our dear mother hen to call us. Now, there's some other things going on in this reading too that are a little tricky. Notice that the Pharisees are acting on behalf of Jesus in this reading. Did you catch that? They warn Jesus that Herod wants to get him. Herod is in Galilee. If he leaves quickly for Jerusalem, he'll get out of Herod's area. Only when we get to the Lucan Gospel, at the end of this story, Herod has come for business, and he's in Jerusalem too, so we don't get rid of him that easily. But what does Jesus call Herod? What do foxes eat? Chickens. So, when Jesus calls his chicks to hide under him, who is the fox going to get first? The big chicken. He's going to get mom. Jesus is sacrificing his life in order to protect us. His whole idea of protecting us under the wings is a movable thing, that wherever mom moves, we move and follow Jesus. So as we're on our way, our mother hen is always with us. And when a fox comes around, get under the wings and let Jesus protect you. Be humble. Now, what happens to the holy presence if Jesus is this moving target, this mother hen going around moving? Where is the holy presence in the temple? It's going to be destroyed. After Jesus dies, about 50 years after, the temple is completely destroyed. There is no more holy presence in the temple. Jesus is talking about his eventual death, rising from the dead, and keeping us constantly on the move. He is always watching over us, always calling us, and we have this task, which is very difficult, to listen and see where it is we're called to go next. Today, tomorrow, and the next day, which means for eternity, we are moving toward Jerusalem. Is Jerusalem a place, a geographical place, or is it movable? It's movable. I'll answer that one for you. It's movable, and we have to constantly stay on the move in order to find it. Jesus, who does sacrifice his life for us, is always going to be there for us, because his journey takes us through death to the other side, which we are so bewildered by. Even those of us of great faith don't understand how this is possible. And it's okay. We don't have to understand. We just have to know that our loved ones are still with us, that Jesus will abide with us through death and to eternity, always sheltering us, always teaching us, and always sending us out to do more good work. So listen, your mother hen is calling you.